part of the solution. And I am going to attend, if I'm elected mayor, monthly meetings every month at Palmer's Crossing. And the way we're going to solve this problem is like eating an elephant, because we got an elephant of a problem out here with infrastructure, drainage, sewer, and it's going to take some time, but we can do it together, and I'm willing to hold myself accountable to the citizens out here. And that's really important, is to be present and accounted for, and I will be present and accounted for. And so every month I will personally be here. I'm not going to send an assistant because I'm not going to have an assistant. I don't need an assistant. I want to be out around the city. I want to be involved with the community. I want to come to these meetings. I want to know what the problems are. We'll get the city engineer out here with us. We'll drive around if we have to. And then the next month when I come back, whatever we talked about that previous month, there's going to be a plan. There's going to be a plan. And if it's a big project, it may be a 2-year plan. If it's a small project, we may have it fixed the next week or the next meeting. But there's going to be a plan. And every concern that's brought up at these meetings will be addressed, and I'm going to address them. That's what it takes. I mean, being mayor is you serve the community. You know, it's not about the coat you wear and how shiny your shoes are, and I even wear jewelry. You know, that's not really important to me. I don't wear gold. I don't wear a watch. I prefer to be casual, but I'm willing to get out here in this community and really work it and make sure that y'all get the services you deserve. We've got this community and as well as Ward 2, they have a lot of problems. I mean, y'all have the smell, then we have the brown water issue in other areas, and people are not getting equal services. And I think that a lot of the communities are being taken for granted. And because they're being taken for granted, they're not getting back what they're voting for. And I'm going to deliver. I'm going to earn the vote out here. And I'm going to do it by being present and accounted for. And that's the main thing. That's the first step to solving these problems, is to have someone that's here, that's listening, that wants to solve the problems, that's going to be accountable in the position that I am to the citizens of this community. And I don't have a problem being accountable. I don't have a problem showing how much money we spend in each of the wards. I want every sidewalk we do in one ward, I want to keep track of it. That way when we sit down and we're looking at different communities, we can see where the money's going. We can see what's being done. And that way it's fair. This community has some catching up to do. Ward 2, y'all need a lot of sewer work out here. Ward 2 needs a lot of water work. You know, if we can't get our basic services down, we got problems. And we have a mayor and we have another person running for office. The first thing they want to do is go build a $15, $20 million police station. The first thing I want to do is fix the water problems, the drainage problems, and the sewer problems. I don't want a big $15 million police station. I think that our communities would all be better served if we have precincts. And in each precinct, we can involve a community center. I have a background in fitness. I've owned health clubs. I've consulted for fitness franchises and companies that are franchises. And I have a lot of connections. I know people that manufacture equipment, some of the nicest equipment in the world. We can get a bid on that wholesale. I mean, we could put a really nice gym in a community center with 2,000 square feet and $150,000 worth of equipment. And we've got a nice area where people can go, they can exercise, they can lift weights. And I want to incorporate that with our substations or our precincts. That way we can have police officers mentoring kids in the weight room. And when you're 13, 14 years old, if you get hooked on lifting weights, you ain't worried about doing drugs. You know, fitness fitness and sports are, as we all know, I mean, that saves a lot of people from the path of drug addiction. And I think that when we have our police officers interacting with the community more through community center participation, people are going to have a lot more respect for the police officers, and the police officers are going to have a lot more respect for the community. I'd like to see members of Palmer's Crossing work the police stations out here. I think it's important that you have people that live out here that are working the neighborhoods out here. You know, why bring a bunch of people from the other side of town over here that don't know anybody and they don't know, you know, how the community works and, you know, who's in the community they can talk to and get information from. So I don't want to build a big $15, $20 million police station. I know there's one candidate, he wants to double the fines in Hattiesburg to pay for a police station. And people don't want that. People don't want their police officers raising money to pay for a building by doubling the fines. And I don't even know if that's legal or not. I don't think that's, I mean, I don't think the law will even allow someone to do that. I think you've got a due process violation there where you know, you can't levy a tax through a fine to pay for projects.
That's right.
So, and that would be Mr. Ware. I mean, he, you know, so he has that idea. I don't think that's the best idea at all. The smell out here, you know, the smell is from USAE East. I think everybody knows that by now. There was a lot of misinformation from Benny Sellers when he was the Public Works Director, and he was telling everybody it was Marshall Durbin. Well, that's because he messed up and let USAE East come into town, and he didn't want anybody to know it was his fault. So he was spreading a lot of misinformation, and he ended up resigning or getting fired or whatever you want to call it. But there are ways of dealing with USAE East. The city is in a predicament where they can't sue them out of business or get them out of town because we have an open-ended agreement with USAE East. As long as they're here, we have to treat them ways. But there are ways that the citizens can get USAE East out of business. And I'm working with lawyers on that for certain litigation against USAE East on behalf of citizens. And that would be through nuisance violations because that smell is a nuisance. And Mississippi has strong nuisance laws. So there's a way we can hold them accountable through nuisance ordinances. I'm trying to think of what got me into this. You know, I started filming all the city council meetings and all the public hearings because I didn't feel we had transparency in our government. And I thought, well, you know, they're not keeping good records of these meetings. I want to know what's going on. The community wants to know what's going on in these meetings. So I set a camera up. I started filming them. And we started submitting records requests and started investigating things. And you know, I was sitting in this meeting and 2 directors of public works resigned all of a sudden, just poof, they're gone. Turned out they were stealing. They were embezzling money. They had an overtime scheme going. And one of them was paid his alleged mistress 6 weeks paid vacation. And she wasn't even working. And they were buying tires on taxpayer dollar and putting them on private vehicles and then logging those tires to city vehicles that were auctioned off 2 years ago. Tim Pittman and Russell Davis both had to pay back $30,000 in restitution to the city. And that's, I mean, and I've got the receipts, you know, we covered that. The mayor called it a personnel matter. And when you do that as a mayor, you have just shielded that investigation from being made public. So as a citizen or a news outlet, we can't go to City Hall and get that police report on those people that did this or that and stole this or that because it's been called a personnel matter. And so that's a way that our current administration keeps a lid on these problems, is they call these things personnel matters. They're crimes. And when you do that in our government, the people who are working hard, who are showing up every day and putting in their time and want a chance for a promotion or a raise, and they see these people who are doing these things and nothing's happening to them, it makes them say, why do I even care? Why do I even try? And when you start to create that environment in an organization, whether it be a government organization or a corporation, you lose productivity. Your morale goes low. You know, the people who do the great jobs, they're thinking, why do I care? Why should I? Why should I do this? Why, you know, no one's being held accountable. The hardest thing I ever had to do in business was fire the very first person I ever had to fire. And it was just, you know, it was so hard to fire this person, but they needed to be fired, but I'd never fired anybody before. And when I let them go, everybody else on staff, man, they were on time, they weren't leaving early, they had their clothes looked good when they came in, they realized, oops, you know, we got to be accountable for our jobs. And it doesn't take but a few people that need to go for 80% of the other people to realize there's a new game in town, and it's not job security for people who don't deserve it. That we need to give people raises in our city who need them. But we've got people here that are, you got 20% of people doing 80% of the work, 9 times out of 10 in any business. So once you start showing and rewarding people for their performance, everybody else is going to want to do better, you know? So I don't want to go in and fire a bunch of people. What I want to do is go in and I want to create a performance-based pay structure for our department heads and our managers. That way, when they drive by that job site and there's 4 people watching a guy dig a hole, they're going to be upset too, because it's their department that they're in charge of, and they're getting paid based on their performance. And so if they're getting paid based on their performance, they're going to want everybody to be productive.
That's right.
And that's really how you get productivity out of our government. We can do so much more with what we have. We have to reward the people who are doing the work and working hard, and let the other people figure out they're not going to get rewarded unless they do the same thing. And that's where our government really is. The culture is very low. The morale is low. You have people taking bribes at municipal court. They're still working with the city. They should go. You know, when you take a bribe and you shred up warrants and you take EBT cards and money and purses and clothing to tear up someone's warrants or to change a judge's ruling, you can't have that. You just can't do it. And why these people are still working with our city is, you know, I'm sure there's a reason. I can't think of a good one. But there's got to be a reason. So, the main thing that I want to let everybody know in this community that I will be here, personally. I'm not going to run from the problems that this community has. We're going to confront them head on, one bite at a time, and we're going to solve them. And that's what I'm here to pledge, and that's what I'm going to do, is that I'm going to commit, and I'm going to deliver, and I'm going to be accountable to the people out here.
Mr. Garmon, you know, we've had so many people in here that sing the song that we like to hear. And the minute they get elected, they change the tune. Now, what I would like to know, that we can hold you accountable, because I will, and everybody know that. What you gonna do when you get there? And, well, let me put it like this. When you get in the city works, and it gets hard for you to make the changes that you want to make the change, what procedure are you going through to make the changes? I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Obama, for instance. Obama went in a bed of wolves. And I would say that's my expression. He have made very many changes. Not that he haven't tried. But are you going to get disgusted and say, okay, the hell with it, let me join the club? See, that's what we have. I'm not explaining this just like I want, but I'm trying to get there. What I'm saying is, once you get there, you get elected, well, we got to worry about you changing, joining the club. That's what I'm really trying to say.
You don't. And they probably don't want me in the club, to be honest with you, considering all I've stirred up with the government. You know, I've been the one that's been there with the cameras and with the records requests.
Yeah, I know that.
You know, and I've been at those meetings, standing at that podium, saying what's important to me. You've seen me, you've heard a lot of the things. I've stood up for city workers. You know, I'm not, my wife's from Canada. She's not from Mississippi. She's a family woman. She doesn't care about whose Christmas party we don't get invited to, you know. And she doesn't care. We're not members of a country club. Don't want to be. You know, my wife's a family woman. She is not one of these people who wants to social climb. And I don't want to either. That's not what's important to me. So trying to curry favor with these people is not what I am about. I'm about doing what's right. I don't care who it upsets. I mean, what I've been doing for the past year has upset people.
You're right.
I have upset some folks.
Yeah, you're right.
And everything on my website that I've done has been backed up by documents, and you know, we've done a few little funnies and jokes, but you know, it's serious stuff. And I was in a coffee shop the other day, and Joseph Tatum comes in to Southbound Bagel, and he sits by me, and he's talking to me about this land application. He's like, land application is the way to go. I said, no, land application is not the way to go. I said, you're leaving your lagoon system out here. People want the lagoons gone. You got mechanical, overpriced by $35 million, because I've done some homework. I've called engineers. I want to know what these numbers they're trying to sell the community on is wrong. You know, and so they want to try to, what they want to do is sell everybody on this land application where we treat our waste in the lagoons, and then they irrigate and pump it out over 10, 20,000 acres. Well, the 10 to 20,000 acres is owned by Bennett York and the Tatums.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the mechanical facility, which is the other option to that solution, they've got priced so high that it looks like it costs the same. And it doesn't. The mechanical is $30, $40 million cheaper than the land application. But they don't want you to know that, because they don't want costs to be discussed. And so I got on that stage at that meet and greet, and I was quoted in the newspaper as saying, this thing is a sham. And that's what they quoted me. I called the whole thing a sham. If I wanted to be in their club, I would not have gone on record and called the land application deal a sham.
Yeah.
And I did it. And Miss Delgado talked to me afterwards, and she's, you know, I'm not going to speak for her, but she was not in disagreement with what I had to say. And it's not what's best for Hattiesburg. It's what's best for the people who are voting on it. The Ward 2 councilman who was running it in Dave Ware's place, he dropped out because the Ethics Commission said it was unethical for him to work a real estate deal and run for city council at the same time. And that man, Chris Price, has been working this land application deal. Back a year ago when it first came out, he started working the phones and calling the Tatums and the Yorks and everybody that owned land, and he's putting this whole thing together, and he's going to make him a good $80,000, $100,000, I'm sure. He's Dave Ware's good buddy. He knew what was happening before anybody else did. And then all of a sudden, he drops out of the council race. Mm-hmm. Now, my theory is he knows how the vote's going to go. Mm-hmm. And since he knows how the vote's going to go, he can't be councilman and collect a commission.
That's right.
So he dropped out as councilman. Now he's in line to make his commission. But I'm the only one out there ringing alarm bells on this thing. You know, no one else is ringing alarm bells on this. And now that I've shaken that bell and made that noise and called this thing a sham, now the city council is bringing in Clearwater Engineering from Starkville, Mississippi as an outside consultant to advise them on the cost of this analysis that they're comparing. And what's the funny thing is he's one of the same people that I consulted with. Mm-hmm. So when they get him up here at this hearing, a whole lot of stuff's going to come out. And the Yorks and the Tatums aren't going to like it.
That's right.
But I don't care, because I'm not playing these backdoor land deal money games. $30, $40 million means 15 to 20 bucks a month on our water bill. So why are the taxpayers going to spend 15, 20 bucks a month more on their water bill so someone can make a lot of money on a land deal? And that's the stuff I don't like. This is all this local politics that I've seen go on, you know, and I'm not about that. I want to stop that. And
Are you the one that has that website on Facebook called?
Hattiesburg Patriot.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And that's stirred up a lot.
Yeah, it has. I've been reading, but I never had put a face to it.
But the website is, you know, the Facebook's just the Facebook. If you go to that website, you'll see all the investigations we did. Like Eaton School, okay? Eaton School needed a new roof. So they hired Don McCluskey, architects, to draw the plans. This guy drew the plans for the roof, but never took one measurement. It was a hip roof, so he couldn't get his angles from the street. So he guessed at the pitch, and he came up with 512. Now, when the contractor got on site, he was supposed to verify. The contractor's from Crawford, Mississippi, by the way. There were local roofers that bid at this job that were a little few $1,000s more than this guy. But what's funny is there's a $65,000 campaign contribution from Crawford, Mississippi, and it went to someone's election campaign. Okay, so when you start looking at $65,000 contributions from, you know, Crawford's about that big. It's not a big place. And so when you have a large contribution coming out of Crawford, and you have this roofer coming from Crawford to do this project, the first roof he put on, he never verified the pitch, so he put on the 512. Well, Mississippi Department of Archives and History came out and they looked at that roof and they said, we can't paint on this roof because it doesn't match the old pitch, and that's the requirement of getting this historical money. So before he got the roof decked out, he had to take it all off. So he got his truss manufacturer up here, and they took some new measurements, and they came up with an 812. They went from 512 to 812. That's a big difference. That's a 3-foot drop, 12 foot. And so that roof pitch was too tall. The first pitch was 2 feet below the old vent stack flashing. You know where the flashing was? You could see the flashing 2 feet above the first roof. Then the flashing was 2 feet below the second roof. And so then the Archives and History came up here and said, we're going to help you out. We'll bring our engineer because y'all got problems. Y'all can't figure out a roof pitch on the building. And they came out with 6.512, and that's what's on there now. Well, this whole thing went on from September to March. September of 2009 to March of 2010. So for 4 or 5 months, that whole Eaton School building had no roof on it at all. No decking, no tar, I mean just an empty box.
That's right.
With scaffolding stacked on the second floor, all around it.
That's right.
They get that third roof up and start decking it, and that whole second floor collapsed on them. And it did $700,000 worth of damage to that building. And they're going to have to tear it down. So this is how our city's running projects.
That's right.
You know, you had Tim Pittman in charge of that project when he was on duty. Now he's gone because he was allegedly stealing money, had to pay money back. You know, these are this city is kind of, it's running itself, but it's not running itself very well, you know.
I agree with you.
And
one question. If you are elected, do the mayor have any power of trying to get past the city council? Like if you want to do something, the city council say no, and then there's nothing can be done?
if you're going to do a project, then the city council has to approve any budget spending, expenditures, okay? Now, I can restructure departments and, you know, hire, department heads have to be appointed, so they have to be voted on. So the city council does play a role in getting these projects passed.
I'm just gonna give you an example. Like if you want to do some sewage work down here, and you wrote a proposal to get it done, and you run it by the city council, and they do not approve it, you know, that kills it right there, right?
Well, they have to approve, the city council has to approve those expenditures. That's right. Now, smaller expenditures and maintenance, that stuff, but bigger projects, yes. I mean, they're gonna have to, you know, if you're doing a big sewer project, and yes, they have to approve that expenditure.
So your hand will be tied there, like, okay.
Exactly. Just like
Your hand is like a wall.
Well, yes and no. I mean, here's the difference. I'm not afraid to call people out in these meetings.
Okay.
Okay? That hasn't been done. this town people need to be called out.
Okay.
Right.
People need to be shook up. I don't care if it makes them mad or not. You know, I mean, I'll make someone, if they want to stop a project just to spite a community, we'll expose them. I'll call them out in the meeting. I call them out now, and I'm not afraid to. They don't like that. Everybody likes to play the old political game. But when you start calling people out, they start getting embarrassed. And people don't like being called out. And so when they know someone's going to hold them accountable and call them out on the carpet, they think twice before they do those things. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take someone just, you know, toughening up against some of these city council people.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it really is. But it's not getting, the things are not getting done now.
No, it ain't.
That need to get done. And there needs to be some changes made. And we've got a couple of people running in Ward 4 now. One of them is Petra Arnold Wingo, who I've met her. She's very sharp. And, you know, I mean, she needs some help campaigning, I'm sure. I haven't seen her signs out yet, but she's running against Mary Dryden. And I think Petra would be a much better
Well,
representative.
Mr. Sewell was bringing out some of what I was saying, you see.
Right.
We've been through that. Where the mayor had an opportunity is to say, well, look, we're gonna do what we're gonna do. You know, not set the way in hand. And the time, and my wife can verify that, the time that they come and told him, sit down and shut up. I ain't got over that. They told the mayor, sit down and shut up. Now, he was in the paper, because I was blasting all over the paper was saying that. But I was right in what I say. But I think the mayor should have had the guts to say, look, I'm the mayor. I run the show. And stood up. Now, I'm looking for somebody that got the guts to stand up, you know, and say, okay, I know I'm right, so I stand for right. I don't want you to go up there and put your hand in your head when somebody tell you the mayor, and somebody gonna tell you sit down and shut up. And you gonna put your hand in your head and sit down and shut up. I'm looking for a strong person. And I ain't getting behind your back to tell you. I'm looking for a strong person that can do that. Because I got caught up in that and almost went to jail for telling Carter Carroll that you can't do this.
Well, I have stood up to this government for the past 14 months. And, I mean, I have been to every city council meeting except for the past 13 months, since March 3rd. And I have stood up against Carter Carroll, Kim Bradley.
Well, see, that's the reason why otherwise I wouldn't be here with you. I see you do that.
I have.
The only thing that bothers me is once you get elected, how will you do? I know you're doing it now, but you got to get elected. So you got to get elected. When you get in there, start playing passive. And that's what burns us up. We get out here and fight for somebody to be elected, and once they get in there, and they start taking sides. They start doing it. And I'm telling you now, I've done it. If you get, I don't care who in the hell get elected, they're going to have hell out of me from now on, because I'm old enough to do that. And that goes for you or anybody else coming in. I told you, I said, what I see from you, and I call your hometown. And I asked about you. So that might not suit you, but I'm telling you. I call your whole time and ask about you. They give you a good rating. That's why I'm with you. That's why I say come to our meeting and talk to our people. Talk to the people in the community. You got to tell the same story all the time. You can't tell me something, tell Stewart something else. You got to tell me the same story you tell Stewart. Then I believe you. But this thing, getting in there and then turning back on us, we done had enough of that. And I'm trusting that you will do, because you have been. I only deal with people, not what you say you're going to do now. It's what you did before. And you have done that. You've done it in the council meeting. And that's really why we had a long talk. I said, if you could hold out like you're doing, you'd be a good mayor for this town. But you got to be able to hold out and not sidestep us.
I'm not doing this for any other reason than to fix what I see wrong with our government. And there are a lot of things wrong with how our government's being run. I want an open government. I want a member of the press in the city council meetings at all times, even during executive sessions when council has them. I'd love to ban executive sessions. I think they hide stuff in there. But if I'm going to insist, and there will be a member of the newspaper or TV, when we go into executive sessions, they're going to be there. And if they feel there's a violation of the Mississippi Open Meetings Act of 1972, they can file a complaint with the Ethics Commission and get an opinion within 24, 48 hours. I want to open this government up. You know, let the sun shine in. Let's let the truth come out, and then people can't hide and play these games. And that's what they're doing.
That's right.
And they really are. And I'm not doing this for, I'm not doing this for any other reason than to make a change. And the people that don't want the change, they know that I'll do it. And they're nervous. That's why they're coming in and sitting down next to me in restaurants trying to change my mind. You know, they already started, and I hadn't even got elected yet.
Yeah.
You know? And I sat there and told that guy, that Tatum fella, he said, politics is a business. I said, politics is not a business. Politics is about the people. And I said, you know, you want this land deal because it's going to benefit your family. I said, it's not what's best for this community, and there's no reason why the community should spend $30 or $40 million paying for something that we don't need, and it ain't going to help the community. And I heard a girl in there, she works in that place, she's like, amen. And he just got up and left, you know, because he didn't get anywhere with me. He wants to tell me, you know, how it needs to be, what's good for Hattiesburg. They act like they know what's best for Hattiesburg. They ain't even got out and talk to people in Hattiesburg. They sit around there on dinner table and talk about how it's good for them, and they want to sell Hattiesburg on how it's good for Hattiesburg. I'm not about that. I mean, that's not what I'm about.
Well, you're proving that in the meetings up there, because ain't many people get up there and talk, you know, unless you gotta be doing something in your heart. There gotta be something in your heart that makes you talk that talk, because you're trying to get elected, and you're trying to get elected to talk you talk, and
Well, I mean, I'm pretty direct. You know, and Kim Bradley, what made me mad one day up there was Deborah Delgado was trying to get some decorative lighting for her neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you talking, you know, they needed $100,000. And he's, we don't have the money.
Yeah.
We can't afford this right now. And I said, you know what, sign me up. I'm getting ready to say something, you know. And so I get up at that podium. And I said, let me ask you something, Mr. Bradley. I said, how can you justify losing $20,000 a month on a recycling program, but you can't justify spending $100,000 to put some decorative lighting in an area that we need to revitalize? And he don't like that. They don't like being caught on their hypocrisy. He wants to go to the mayor and say, we're not going to vote on the BP. They're going to hire an attorney to represent the city for the BP thing. And so the mayor wanted to use his law firm. And Kim Bradley, he thought, something funny here. Somebody, you know, they didn't want to approve it. So he said, well, it's too close to the election. We're not going to vote on this before the election. And yet, then I get up there, I say, you want to stop hiring a law firm because of the election, but you want to push through a $180 million land application, wastewater treatment project before the election?
That's what I like about you.
And you use people's positions against them, and that's how you get them.
Yeah.
You know, if they talking about money over here, they wasting money over here,
Right.
but they don't want to talk about the money they're wasting. They want to talk about money that they think's a waste somewhere else, so they can pay for their people. And that's how it's working. This guy that owns this recycling program, I think he lives in Carter Carroll's ward. And they got a 3-year contract. And every year they can come up and review that contract for performance. They had done it.
But you know how I fight that.
Peter, you had a question?
No, I'm through.
No.
Okay.